Hey there, what's up, everybody? It's Dr. Shazetta. I pray you guys are doing well. Happy Tuesday to you. Happy Tuesday to you. If you've been watching at all, then you know that this background is a little bit different than the one that I've been sitting on the last few videos. I'm no longer sitting on my parents' back porch. My husband and son and I returned to DC on last Friday, so just a few days ago. A hard thing to leave. My mom and my sister, especially my mom, as she navigates what her life now looks like. She's been married to my dad her entire adult life, and so to be navigating this season of grief and loss, I think hits a little different for her than it hits for all the rest of us. I want to say thank you to those of you who've sent your love and your prayers and well wishes and thoughts and condolences. I've gotten text messages, I've gotten inboxes and direct messages. You all have really gone above and beyond to show your love and your support for me and for my family, and for that I am eternally grateful. If you're new here, though, I'm Dr. Shazetta, and this is Dr. Shazetta's The Well Life. This is the place where inspiration, creativity, and intellect collide. That's right, my little corner of the internet where I lean fully into who I am, unapologetically and with full intention. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So, those of you who have been with me for a while, you know that my father passed away early on the morning of Good Friday morning. And that was April 3rd, for those of you who don't necessarily um, align with or subscribe to religious holidays. Um, April 3rd was when my dad passed away. And so um, we returned home after celebrations of life and after making sure that everything that we could put in place for my mom and my sister and my nephew were put in place before we left. But it was time for me to return to DC, which is where my husband and I have established our home base um, for ourselves and our little household family. It was good. It has been good to sleep in my own bed. It has been good to be in my own kitchen. Hard to leave, but also good to be home. And one of the things that I have been determined to do is to rebuild, right, a sense of routine and focus and discipline for my own self as I navigate through this season of grief. What does it look like for me to get back to life after loss and while navigating loss? I think sometimes that it's really easy, and I've experienced it navigating grief and loss before. It's really easy to lose sight of who we are. It's really easy to lose sight of ourself, and more importantly, to lose sight of our sense of self care after coming through any kind of loss, but certainly the loss of a parent or a child or a close relative or a close friend. Our lives take on a life in general, right, takes on a different kind of meaning. You begin to think about how you utilize your time. You begin to think about time lost or time that ran out, is something that I have navigated with, saying I ran out of time with my father. And that is sometimes what it feels like, even though we can't go back and we can't reclaim time and we can't make up for lost time, even though, people will often say that or suggest that making up for lost time is really not a thing. But what we can do is decide that moving forward, we will steward our time, right, more responsibly. We will steward our time from a place of gratitude. And when we are grateful for time, we will be more intentional about how we utilize the time that we're gifted with. I We got here Friday night, but before I left Tennessee, I began working on what I want this next season of life to look like. Begun thinking about it. If you go back a few videos, I was talking to you all about, as my dad had begun his transition, that even in his dying, for me, there was this sense of a newness, a new something, or a newness, or a new season being kind of, how should we say it, birthed, right, or brought forth in me. And really sitting with that and engaging with some of my spiritual advisors around that, what I was sensing and what I was experiencing, although it seemed strange to me, is not or was not strange or peculiar at all. In fact, it made full sense, right? Spiritually and naturally, that when something or someone passes away, something new, right, comes forth. That death is a part of the life cycle, that life does not end with death, right, but that something new generally begins. And so as my father has passed away, one of the ways that I was determined and am determined to navigate through this season in a healthy way is to do it by honoring the season of life that I have entered. Um, my dad has been my dad all my life. And so his transitioning out of this realm, right, this natural realm, is literally the triggering, right, of a new season in my life. And I want to steward this season well. I have entered into a place in my life where I am clear on the desires of my heart, which has not always been the case. I'm clear on which of my gifts and graces I want to engage in this season, because I'm gifted, as many of you are, in a number of different ways, in a number of different fields, educated in a number of different fields and arenas. But I am particularly focused on a couple of those areas where I want to place my energy and where I want to place my time, and that I want to focus on in this season of my life. And for me, that means some significant transitions. That means some significant transformations. That means some starting some things. It means sunsetting some things, right? Because when we think about timing, right, I want to lean into this for a minute. I'm coming to what it means, right, to rebuild um, life after loss, or to learn to get back to life after loss. But I want us to understand, right, the significance of times and seasons, and how we have got to discern those really well. And I've learned it the hard way, right? That there have been times when I've had what my father in ministry would call these windows of opportunity to move when my spirit has been pressed to move, to shift when my spirit has been pressed to shift, but out of fear and also out of a lack of discipline or moving too slowly, I've missed out on those opportunities, because there's a window of opportunity for us to respond. Sometimes they come back around, and for that I'm grateful. But oftentimes we will miss out on opportunities from fear and from lack of discipline. Likewise, there are times when we've entered into a season for a particular, purpose or particular reason, and that season comes to an end. But again, out of fear or out of slothfulness, we remain in a place too long, and that remaining there, right, out of fear rather than moving out of faith, will cause us to become stagnated. And sometimes the end result of that is years of digging your way back to purpose. I'm certainly guilty of both, but the latter is what I think has harmed me most over the course of my life, remaining in places, in positions, in relationships, in ways of being longer than I was supposed to. And as a result of that, I found myself in this last 4 or 5 years, probably more than that, it's taken me a decade or more to dig out of the consequences of my remaining in places too long. And so a part of this getting back to life after loss is saying to myself that I want to and am going to honor my father's living and my father's transition, and all of how that affects me. I'm going to honor that by honoring times and seasons, right? I'm not going to be foolish, but I'm also not going to be fearful. And a part of that, for me is making sure, for those of us who need to be in control of things sometimes, part of that is sometimes our fear is based on our need to be in full control of everything. It's based on our need to have an absolute understanding of the end result. That has held me back over time. That has stifled my growth over time. What I've decided instead, and really even before I went to Tennessee, as I was preparing, I knew my dad was declining, is that I decided that the most healthy thing for me to do is to control what I actually have control over. What do I have control over? I have control over what I put in my body. I have control over what I do with my body. I have control over the environments that I allow myself to be situated in. I have control over how I spend my money. I have control over how I steward my time. I have control over what comes out of my mouth, right? And so I'm going to control the things that I can control. And when I do that, for me, it is the equivalent of putting the ball back in God's court. God, I am doing literally, as scripture says, all that I know to do. Tag, you're it. And I realize that some people, are challenged, right, with the audacity, I guess, if you will, of that theology. And also, I understand God to provide for us principles and a roadmap and things that we can do and things that we have control over, and the things over which we have control, we are responsible for. But how can we be responsible for things over which we have no control? Huh? If I am eating well and exercising and taking medication for to prevent, right, things that might be hereditary for me or that I may be predisposed to, and still, because of genetics, those things affect my body, those are things over which I have no control. I can continue. It's not for me to become reckless, right? And say, well, since I'm predisposed to it, I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm not going to get any exercise. I'm not going to drink any water. I'm going to do all of these things, right? You can't say that because I'm predisposed to a thing that I don't have any control. No, the aim is that we do all of the things over which we have control, real control, not perceived control, because some of us believe that we can control things that we have no control over. There was some, I'm going to pause there. I'll come back to it, I'm certain. There were some concerns toward the end of my dad's life by some family and otherwise who believed that when my father stopped eating and drinking, that we should ask the doctors to insert a feeding tube and an IV and all of those things to sustain his physical body. As a household, his wife and children, we didn't agree because it was clear that Dad was making a decision. He was cognizant of what was happening to him. And many years ago, he made clear to us what he intended for his transition time to look like. When it became time to administer the medications to make him comfortable, or to keep him comfortable, to ensure in those last couple of days that he was not in any pain, there were questions, right, about why we were administering these medications, because God could still heal him. And I did agree, and still agree, that God was able to heal him, and that right now, should God choose to, God is able to raise him from the dead. And also, what we could control was making sure that Dad was comfortable, that he transitioned with dignity, that he transitioned in peace, that he transitioned knowing that he was surrounded by love and well cared for down to the very last breath. We had control over that. And having control over that meant that we had to make some decisions that were emotionally difficult, but that were ethically right and spiritually correct. Because that's what we had control over. What we didn't have control over was whether or not or when or how God would heal him. And so in that moment, we had to make the decision that we would operate within our zone of control. Not out of emotionalism, not out of what we wish we had control over, but out of and in what we actually had control over in that moment. So, As I am getting back to life after loss, I came home on Friday. My husband had done an amazing job making sure the house was in fine order before he left to come to Tennessee. I said to him, I want to unpack systematically tomorrow. And tomorrow I want to go through the house and I want to reset the house and I want to put everything in good working order because I need order around me right now. I need to control what I can control. And I want to give myself the best possible chance to start strong when I go back to work on Monday. And so over Friday night and really mostly Saturday evening, because I had a training Saturday during the day that I had to conduct, Saturday afternoon and evening, I slowly walked through the house and I began setting things in place. I ordered groceries and had those delivered. I began decluttering some things. As we unpacked, we washed laundry that needed to be done. It wasn't very much because we washed it before we left, but we took care of those things. We dusted, we vacuumed, we set the house back in order. And we did it on Saturday because we are ministers, and so Sunday is a full day. And I knew that I wanted to come home from church on Sunday, and I wanted to climb in my bed, and I wanted to relax because Monday, yesterday, will be my first day back to work in a full-time capacity, and also the first day of me pressing toward actively every single day these goals that I've set for myself for this quarter. I want to encourage you today, whether you're navigating loss or whether you're just navigating a sense of transition, I want to encourage you to look at, even if you have to make a list, to look at the things over which you have control. If you want to write them down, if you want to make a mental note, however you keep track of things. And when you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, to remind yourself, this is or is not something that I have control over, right? I want you to commit with me to centering yourself fully each day, and maybe it's multiple times a day, but center yourself mentally, center yourself physically, center yourself spiritually, and center your soul, right? To take moments to sit in the sun, to take moments to drink your coffee, to take moments, if you go check out my Instagram today, to exercise in the morning, to hydrate. Nothing has to be done perfectly. Everything doesn't have to be done all at once, but you do have to be intentional about controlling what you can control and setting rhythms for yourself. I'm not trying to rush my way back into everything, because in truth, on April 3rd, when a new season began, there are some things to which I cannot rush back to now or ever. And so I'm committed in this season to rebuilding slowly, rebuilding with intention, and with saying to myself that I can carry grief and focus at the same time. The last time I navigated grief, I was all over the place because I was trying to still be all things to all people, that I still believed that I didn't have the right to sit in the grief that I had, and it broke me. Broke me in a way that I almost didn't come back from, a place that I'm still healing from now, a place that I'm still cognizant of, a place that really caused me to sit in fear as we moved toward my father's transition, because I did not want to break that way again. I'm determined I'm not going to break that way again. And so there's therapy, there's exercise, there's diet, there is rest, there is saying no, right? But there is also a sense of focus, a sense of locking in, again, because I can carry focus and I can carry precision and grief at the same time and honor them both fully. Both of them are allowed to exist however long they need to exist together. I'm going to end the video now, but listen, if this resonates with you at all, I invite you to continue sharing with me on this journey as I navigate this journey of grief and healing and discipline and purpose and what it really means to live the well life. For those of you that are just joining, what I mean when I say the well life is not just to do things well, but it's to do things well and to be well in my spirit, soul, and body when I'm doing them, but also to be a well. That when I or others feel depleted, that I can reach down deep into the reservoirs and reserves of who I am and pull up something fresh to drink. If this sounds interesting to you, inspiring to you, if you think you'd like to come along for this journey, I would love for you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so that you get alerts when I upload new content. Follow me on all my social media platforms at Dr. Shazetta, and you can visit my website also at www.drshazetta.com. I love y'all so much, man, and I'll talk to you real soon. Take good care now.